Please pray with me. Gracious Father, may we recognize your presence, and may we take time to bask in that. Lord, we love you and we praise you. It's in your Son's precious name. Amen. Pretty cool, right? 40 still shots of Jesus being tempted in the desert. And seeing 40, we hear the stories of Jesus being tempted, and we hear stories, but to put pictures with it, to see how people understand that puts a whole new spin on it. This was an artist that decided for every day that Jesus was tempted in the desert, was going to do a painting of how he felt like Jesus passed that 40 days. There's probably a lot of stuff that happened in that time. But it's interesting to see 40 still shots of somebody's life for 40 days and what that looks like. Today I want to reflect a little bit on what our life looks like in still shots. What would our life look like if we took the past 40 days of our life and created a still shot for each one of them? What would yesterday's still shot look like? What would the day before's look like? So Jesus, obviously, and we know the story. This is in Matthew 4. And so Jesus goes and he's tempted in the desert, and then he steps down out of being tempted. You see the angels carrying him down. I don't know if that's how it went, but it's a pretty cool image. So the angels carry him out. And this is kind of like Jesus' warm-up, if you think about it. Jesus was baptized, and then he pretty much goes out into the desert, and this is what he experienced for 40 days. He was tempted, he was hungry, he was thirsty, he was tattered and beaten, he threw rocks at ducks. That's my favorite image on there. And these things happen, and then he comes back down. I imagine him walking back into the city, and he's got to feel like there's some bit of triumph here that's coming, like he's walking to the plate in the bottom of the ninth inning or something. And this is Jesus walking in to Galilee, and he's going to go and begin his ministry. He knows that's what's about to happen. And so Jesus walks back into civilization, and he gives us a message, right? And the message that he's about to give to the people is not just any message. He gives the Sermon on the Mount. And I've spent the past week really, and I should have been spending the past all of my life reflecting on the Sermon on the Mount, but I've specifically been spending the past week reflecting on the Sermon on the Mount and doing some reading and really doing some research of why the Gospel was written the way it was for the people that he was writing to. You have to understand that he was writing a different way than anyone else had, and he was writing the Sermon on the Mount so that people would see Jesus differently, because you see, the people that were reading and hearing Matthew's Gospel for the first time already knew about the life of Christ. They had already heard the life of Christ, but now they're hearing the Sermon on the Mount, and so they're getting a visual of somebody that they know that Jesus has lived out this lifestyle that he is talking about. So Jesus is this person that they know has already been tempted and beaten and killed and overcame death. So they know this about Jesus. They know who he is. This sermon, I've been reading all week an old book that one of my professors wrote specifically on the Sermon on the Mount. And I already wrote a paper on it, and I surprisingly had not read all of it before because I found my old bookmark. And so I was reading more this week. I think I got an A on the paper, though, so it's okay. Y'all didn't hear me say that. Read all of the book and then write the paper. But I was surprised in learning more about the Sermon on the Mount and what this message is supposed to be delivering. And there's power that's in it, and there's wisdom that's being delivered. We've read all these things, but The wisdom has to be understood as the wisdom that God is delivering. The sovereign God is delivering himself. And it's not just Jesus, saying a few things. It's Jesus teaching as a loving God. And so we get into the first one of the first parts of the Sermon on the Mount, and Jesus starts rattling off these different things. He says, "Blessed are the poor in the spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." And we know we've read all the Beatitudes before. We know these things, and we've heard these. But now you've got to realize the eyes and the ears of the people that he was speaking it to. See, the eyes and the ears of the people he was speaking to, that he was standing there talking to these people, were living in a dark, dirty, gross world. They were living in a world that was consumed by everything that was not of God. They were consumed by all of this stuff that was not good and not right for them. And so they're sitting there almost literally in bondage in all of these things that are going on in the creation that are not right. And you see, in Greek, when to do the word blessing there is a form of giving power. And so Jesus starts rattling off this list of people, and it sounds really nice to say, well, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And to us, that gives us a nice, warm, gushy feeling like, I mourn, but I will be comforted, and this makes me feel nice and warm inside, and I will wrap in a blanket and drink hot cocoa. But here, the way it's written and the way it was explained in the Greek, and the way it comes out, is it's not this warm, gushy feeling, it is this empowering feeling. He is giving power to these people. The people who will mourn, he is giving power to them and say, you will mourn no longer. Those of you who search and hunger for righteousness, no, you have power now. You are filled with power. Those who are poor in heart, I give you power and you will see God. He is empowering these people to break away from the creation that they are within. The dark and dirty creation, the place that they are stuck within, he is empowering them to break away from it. We've all seen movies where, like Braveheart at the end, and if I was a better preacher, then I'd probably have like the Braveheart scene, and he yells for freedom, but we see these rallying speech moments in movies. These rallying speeches that raise the hair on the back of our neck, and we're all excited, and even when you're watching the movie, it makes you want to go like run like Rudy does or whatever, and run up the top of the stairs like Rocky. And there's these empowering speeches and these empowering moments. It's kind of like that's what Jesus is doing here in that moment. We have these empowering things that happen in our lives. We see these speeches that rally people up, and we get all excited. I had one of those moments the other day. I'm a big Red Sox fan. I went to Fenway Park the other day for the first time, and like every hair was standing on end when I walked in the park. And I could have taken on the world in that moment, I think. Because it's just one of those empowering moments. It's like my whole life since I was third grade, I've wanted to go to this place. And I walk in, and I was just like, I'm here, I've done this. And it's an empowering feeling. And Jesus expresses this empowering feeling. For me, Jesus probably would have picked me up. My Sermon on the Mount would have been picking me up and taking me to Fenway Park, probably. But Jesus empowers these people, these broken people. Everything that he describes here in the Beatitudes is a different broken person. And so he starts empowering these people, and he says, no, this is your break. This is your break from all of those things, all of those still shots that were in your life before, because I'm willing to bet that if we really thought about 40 still shots of the past 40 days of our lives, not all of those 40 shots would represent the Sermon on the Mount. And that is very much myself included. When we think about one shot that would represent yesterday, I'm willing to bet it wasn't necessarily something that represented this Sermon on the Mount. So we start breaking away. We're given this rally speech to break away and to do something different. My question this morning, and my challenge for us and myself, is what does the next 40 still shots of our life look like? The material is here, like the rally speech, the best rally speech that there probably is on creation is here written for us. And really being a Christian, being a part of the light of Christ, the light of God, the good part of creation is living in wake of the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, the instruction is there. That's what it's about. That's the rally speech. And so my question is, what does the next 40 still shots look like? And we're beyond Lent. I realize that this would have been a good Lent sermon, and I could have saved it, I guess. But my question and challenge for us is, what do the next 40 still shots look like? If an artist was to say, I'm going to paint the life of Adam for the next 40 days, represent one with each picture, what would that look like? Because according to this, it's supposed to be empowered. It's supposed to be breaking away from the bad parts of creation. It's supposed to be living as a taught person. Because that's what we are. We have everything that we need to be taught. So I challenge us to be motivated for the next 40 days to create a better still shot for each day. Each day, create something better than what you would have thought it would have been. That's my invitation this morning. And as Rick and the band comes back up, I invite you to reflect. Take time to reflect and think of, how will I live in wake of that? How will I better each still shot for each day?